All right, so we're gonna move on now to Resident Evil 2, um, aka Resident Evil 2 remake, aka very completely different game than what Resident Evil 2 was, but I'm sure there's some similarities. Lee, you have played both, and you've played quite a bit of this new game. What what are we getting into here?
Well, what you're getting into is obviously it's not the first time we've had a remake with these things. We've had it with one, which is kind of the same template as the original to some extent, but with much so the fixed perspective
Yep.
kind of thing is still kind of retained. This is quite different. This is taking it out completely, so it is a complete remake with
Mm-hmm.
this different story. It's over the shoulder, very much in the style of Resident Evil 4, but with more movement because in 4 you have to stay.
Right.
Here you can move around a little bit and kind of a risk and reward type thing to
Yeah,
combat.
they let you move
Um,
around in 5, right?
no, 5 you were still stuck. 6 you
Okay.
could move forward at a quite a slow pace,
All right. Okay.
but it didn't matter. They just melted underneath your weapons anyway. So it is a much more substantial remake than the remake of 1, which is the one you recently played yourself.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
a much different experience.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the story is relatively the same. You have this sort of concept where you're one of two characters that get split at the beginning, and they go off and they have their own experiences in their separate campaigns, and
Yeah, you
occasionally
got
meet in the
Leon
middle
and
around the
Claire,
same
right?
building. Leon and Claire, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you'll occasionally meet up, and you'll kind of do similar puzzles around the same thing, and it's generally the same setup as the original version. There's a concept. If you finish with Leon, you can play either you play the first scenario in completely. You'll have deviations, but it'll be the same through line in the first scenario that you play. So once you complete the first scenario, you'll end up playing a second scenario, which is a kind of a different take on it. You'll see the other sides. Very difficult to explain, isn't it? The zapping
So
system of it.
basically, you choose either Leon or Claire for your first
Mm,
playthrough, and eh, depending on which one you choose, some of the story is a little bit different, but most of the
mm,
game, and this is like
mm,
the most game there is basically, is
mm.
playing through as either Leon and Claire with their narrative through line, and then after you complete um, that playthrough, you then have the option to play as the other character with a few moments where they meet and a few other perspectives on the events that happened in the first playthrough. Um, and I played a little bit of Claire's second playthrough, which would be the counterpart to Leon's full playthrough. And so far, there's quite a bit that's different with the police station. Items are in different locations. Um, like there's no typewriter in the main lobby, which there was in Leon's main playthrough. That was like a safe spot that you kept coming back to, and it's no longer that in Claire's playthrough. Um, like it seems like it's a faster game as well. Like not faster as in the movement is faster, but the pace is picked up because it seems right off the bat it's more difficult in my opinion. I'm running out of ammo a lot faster than I did with Leon, and like I'm probably like an hour in and I've already encountered lickers. So, um, which didn't happen until probably like 2 or 3 hours into Leon's campaign, depending on how fast you play. But that's generally when it happened. That was kind of like um, a big reveal, like farther into Leon's story. And so but some of the puzzles are the same. Like I still need to find the 3 medallions to open up the statue in the main hallway. Um,
Mm.
so I'm not sure how much it deviates. Um, Lee, you probably have more insight on that because I know you've played through at least a good chunk some of these second playthroughs.
Yeah, I have. So yeah, it is kind of you'll see. Like I say, the first scenarios are relatively on the same through line, but you'll go to your own independent thing depending on what character you are. But they'll go into the same through line, and you'll see the character. Best way to describe it, you see the other character that's in the game. You'll see them on a monitor.
Right.
And scenario B is what would be on the other side of that monitor, if you could explain it like that.
Mhm.
So you
To
will
an
literally see
extent, yeah.
yeah. Now in the original, things you did in scenario A would be zapped into B. So there will be a thing in the original where you go to a locker, and if you've got a choice to take either a backpack, which greatly builds up your inventory, or a machine gun. You can only do one.
Mm-hmm.
And so you kind of leave one for the other, and that will arrive in your B, which was quite innovative back in the PS1 days.
Mm-hmm.
So A does have ramifications on B. This one, it doesn't do that at all. Almost to the point where everything you do in A has no effect on B whatsoever.
Yeah.
You will do the same puzzle again. You have to unlock the same door that Leon must have locked on the way through again.
Yeah.
There's a character in there that you see that will turn into a zombie, and essentially you kill him twice.
Yeah.
You will kill him in the first one, and he'll be back in the second one.
Yeah.
It's very disappointing for a real fan. It's one of my big gripes. It's that there's no reflection from the B, because that's the whole thing of it. It's kind of getting the full thing once you complete it both sides.
Yeah.
And it is quite disappointing. You'll see a helicopter crash through the same piece of building twice, but in different.
Yeah, that makes sense though, because then you like when you played through as Leon, that helicopter crashed, and then you immediately went down and met Claire, and then when you're Claire, you know at that fence scene, stuff like that makes sense. But the other thing you were talking about with like the fact that you have to do the puzzles over again, or like there's still ammo on the table or something like that. Like, of course, if I was Leon, I would have definitely grabbed that ammo before Claire would have got there. Strange things like that, like the fact that there's no typewriter in the lobby, even though in Leon's there is. And by the way that the stories overlap, you're only talking about like a few minutes, right? This isn't like 3 hours later or something like that. You talked to Leon in that fence, then you went and you did something else, and then you immediately got through that door. So you should see Leon there. Like, you should come across him, because he would have still been in that area exploring and checking everything out. So yeah, it is a little weird in that respect, and I don't know. I haven't gotten far enough into it to really know whether or not what they were going for, if that makes any sense. What's
kind of interesting too is I started with Claire, and I have the typewriter in there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
you
get that in the A scenario. Yeah, they'll always be the same thing.
Flip it between the two.
Yeah, it might be more of a deal breaker for somebody that kind of grew up with the old one, which Ryan hasn't. So it might be just a silly inconsistency for someone that's going in, not having the experiences. That's just a silly story thing. They should have ironed that out. Pisses me off. It's like they nailed it so much that the ramifications of the first and second one, that now they drop the ball almost all of it. So yeah, there's things like that that are frustrating. But I think that's the only thing, the only ball that it really drops. I think it nails pretty much everything else it aims to.
Yeah.
In the style of gameplay, in the style of tension. Resident Evil, being a fan, it's supposed to be a horror game, and there is creepy bits in it, but generally they're quite cheesy. They're quite cheesy horror games. This is absolutely terrifying at points. The tension is really ratcheted really high, and I think that's to do with kind of the way the kind of the de-emphasis of combat. It looks like it's a Resident Evil 4, but it doesn't play like it at all. You will be rewarded in 4 with headshots. You pop a headshot. That's great. Here, if you try to, it actually kind of doesn't want you to take the combat approach, because if you're trying to give them a headshot, you're going to waste 6 to 8 bullets that are very rare, very limited. It doesn't really want you to take them on and start capping.
Or sometimes one.
Depend. Yeah, sometimes you get a lucky pop and it'll go pop, or where your weapons get upgraded. It treats you later when you get better guns, and then you can get those juicy headshots, and it's very satisfying.
Yeah, I mean, like the Nighthawk, Leon's Nighthawk was like a headshot master.
Yeah.
Lightning Hawk,
and then
whatever
it gets quite fun.
Yeah,
it's satisfying, but then they really reduce the ammo, so you're still not getting the benefit of that. You're not capping everything. You'll probably get 7 or 8 every like half an hour.
And every bullet needs to be a headshot, or else you're going to be running out.
They're quite visceral. Zombies. Zombies are scary again. Zombies haven't been scary in games for a long time. They're on you. They move very realistically. The graphics are amazing. I think the graphics are fantastic. It's probably some of the best graphics I've seen in a long time. With this new Resident Evil engine.
Yeah, it's been really amazing.
Sometimes it's uncanny valley. Sometimes things shine in the wrong ways, and there's like too much wetness on stuff. But there's a sense of realness to the environments.
Yeah, I think the environments look good, and the lighting is really good, especially with your flashlight. They deliberately kind of make darkness not 100% black. They it's kind of like this kind of like, it looks like it's washed out, but it's not. It's the way that it's supposed to look, which like allows you to kind of see what's there. So if there's a little bit of movement, it can catch you off. It can catch you off guard and make you think there's something there when there isn't, or maybe you see something before it attacks you or something like that. So I think all of that works good.
Sometimes you'll see strange things on some of the faces where, in cutscenes, maybe the faces don't work properly. Sometimes they do. There's a character called Marvin, and he talks to you at the beginning, and he's in pain, and he's trying to explain to you what is going, and he's got these things, and he's blinking at you, he's quite intently staring at you. And it looks great, and sometimes it's not that character, and then they've got too much teeth when they're talking and stuff. It's like it's quite inconsistent with the facial capture, I think.
Yeah.
When you see clothes, it looks great.
I just thought some of the character faces and stuff like that were a little off, not crazy, not like holy crap, this looks completely out of place or something like that, but just a little bit. Other than that, I can't really complain too much about the visuals. It looks really good, and they're able to scale it at a way that it at least tries to stay at 60 frames per second the whole way through, which is pretty good. I've been playing it on an Xbox One X, and it's been pretty solid. There are a couple times where it's slowed down here and there, but it stayed almost solid throughout the whole playthrough.
Yeah,
it's been about the same experience on the PS4 Pro.
Oh yeah.
One, I guess before we move away from visuals, there's this weird thing where certain environments very clearly have a certain color temperature to them. Like you'll be walking through like the hallways of the police station, and it'll be dark, and you'll have your flashlight, and then you'll walk into the lobby, and it's warm. Like the color temperature is very warm, and there's like a clear transition there, and it's strange. I've never seen it in a game before. Like I've never noticed it so deliberately in a game before, and it's very strange. I don't really know what the deal is there.
No,
I haven't noticed that too much, but like Leo was kind of mentioned earlier, like the stuff that looks wet, especially like in the main lobby. Sometimes when I come back, and if you turn at a certain angle, like the walls will just get really bright and like shiny.
Yeah, they'll like shimmer.
Yeah.
There's a strange shimmer on floors as well. When you see the reflection of the walls on the floor, it kind of almost like static rain. Sometimes the
Yeah, but it's
reflections
only
turn into
like
grain.
in
Yeah.
areas that are fully lighted, but anywhere that has been like dark has been like
Hmm.
absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and the casting of shadows through the and stuff like that. That's great. But yeah, sometimes when it is in bright light, like the main hallway is the worst time I've seen that weird kind of grain on the floor where it wigs out the reflection. Depending on the way you look, 'cause if you're looking straight at it, it won't do it. But if you look to the side or look down or up,
Yeah, that's what I
then
was
it'll
saying.
kick
Kind of
in.
when you turn, or if you're
Mm,
going up like the steps there, it usually catches as
mm,
well.
yeah, I think going from visuals, audio is a big part of this game. A massive part of this game. The binaural audio. Um, in a weird way, a bit more narrative. I feel in maybe Hellblade, more of a narrative thing, wasn't it? The binaural voices and stuff like that. But this is used as a gauge of where certain enemies are around you more than I've seen in a lot of other games. I think, like you could hear the scratching of a licker on the ceiling and stuff like that, so you know exactly where they are at any given time and stuff like that. You can hear whether Mr. X, which is a big villain that comes in half and basically Falcon punches him into the future.
Yeah.
You can hear whether he's above you, a floor above. You can tell whether he's one or two floors below, depending on how they balance the audio. I think the audio really kind of ramps up the
Yeah.
tension on this.
Yeah,
It's really good audio design.
especially with Mr. X in the footsteps, because once he makes his entrance, he's there, and he's very much stalking you, and he, like, I'm sure it's not I'm sure it's that there's a little bit of cheating going on, but it feels like he doesn't just like all of a sudden show up on the other side of the door. You'll hear, if you're paying attention, you'll hear the footsteps, and you'll know that he's in the vicinity. Um, and yeah, it was just that was definitely probably my favorite part of the game, was when he was stalking you and you had to come up with these solutions to get away from him and make sure you don't get your head pounded into the ground. And just his presence is so ominous. The way he just like Terminator style walks down hallways without giving a shit. Basically, you could be shooting him, you could be doing all this stuff to him, and he's just like dush, 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 coming right at you. I didn't find him too hard to escape. He's kind of easy to trick and get caught up on. Like environmental things and stuff like that. So I never really got caught by him.
On the swing.
But he was always there to kind of like fuck with you on whatever you were going for. Like you had to get to this particular spot, so you're like, okay, cool, I know exactly how to get there, right? Because you'd spent so much time in this police station that you knew which doors went where. You knew exactly how to get to where you were going. And then all of a sudden there's this roadblock there that could show up at any moment, and he always would. You'd always be like 2 doors away, and then he'd be on the other side of the door that you needed to go through, and you'd have to find a new way around. That said, I don't think the ultimate conclusion to Mr. X is all that great. I mean, you fight him at the end, and I didn't think that was a particularly good fight.
Yeah. You see slightly different from him from the second scenario, which suggests there's more than one.
Oh, okay.
Because there's something that happens. Actually, it's in the trailers. You'll see one of the enemies punch through him, and it punches through his stomach, and it basically takes a chunk out of him. He's dead. He's gone. That's actually in the one of the very first trailers. It punched through Mr. X. And it's like when someone's at the cell bar, like a lift door, they punch through his dead. So it suggests there's more than one of them, because when you play the original, it doesn't show you. because it is very, very slavish to the original kind of with setups. There's a helicopter that goes underneath, and there's several tanks of these things strapped to the bottom of a helicopter. They just drop them in, like airdrop them in. So it suggests that there is more than one. But yeah, going back to Mr. X, I kind of role played it a little bit. I played it very slowly, and you work out after a while that he can hear your footsteps if you start moving too fast. So again, it's the big thing you take for this game. It's the risk and reward thing. If you know you're in the same corridor as Mr. X, because you can also lickers are deaf, blind rather, and they can't hear you if you walk slow at all. And you can technically just look at them because that's the right pace to get past them. Look at them with your shotgun and aim, and that's the right pace for him not to hear your footsteps. Kind of. Because they can fuck you up, because they can do you straight away. They just lob your head off.
They're
best not to tackle them at all.
They're definitely,
later.
in my opinion, the most dangerous enemy in the game, more than Mr. X.
Yeah, I rage quit Sunday because of the liquor that I didn't realize was going to be there. I was getting the third medallion. I turned around, there's a zombie, so I was like, okay, cool. And then all of a sudden, the liquor just jumps from the top. And
I know where you were.
I was like, fuck, really? Come on.
Yeah. So kind of the tension of hearing Mr. X coming behind you because you know he's coming from that door, and you've got two lickers on the ceiling that can't hear you because you're walking too slow, and you know you have to book it. But as soon as you book it, one of those things are going to come and just lob your head off with their claws. The tension is really, really high. It's that kind of, do you just run and hope for the best? Do you keep creeping and hope he goes the other way and walks away? Because if you don't make... And I think it's probably one of the more tense horror games I've played in quite a while.
Yeah.
They do a good job of balancing the action and the horror / tension, that kind of stuff. They do a good job there. It feels really good to play. I think that's probably the most important thing here. Is like they nailed exactly how this feels. That if you die or you screw up, it's probably your own fault. It's not like you're fighting with controls or camera angles or things like that. Like, you walked into that room and there was lickers there. You weren't careful enough and they killed you. It wasn't like you were the camera angle wasn't right, so you didn't see him there or something stupid like that.
The zombies. If you're like kind of headshots are out, no headshots. Unless you've got a powerful gun, you're gonna waste your bullets. Best thing to do is kneecap. If you're trying to kneecap them to drop them to one knee, or go. If you miss it, you know it was a risky thing. So, like you say, it's your own fault for trying to take that shot. You should have just tried to get past. It doesn't it's not a fault of the game if you screw up and it fucks you over, like you say.
Yeah, I never really had a problem with ammo taking out the zombies, like going for their head most of the time. There were times where I definitely, like I would do a 1-2 shot combo. I would cap them in the knee, they'd fall down, and then I'd take my shotgun out and blast them in the head, and that did a pretty good job on them. I'd say there was probably like 3 or 4 times throughout the whole game where I was like really anxious about the amount of ammo I had. And I did full exploration, so I found all the gunpowder that you could use to make more ammo. Made sure that I had all of it, like checked every room, 100% cleared it, because the map is really good. It'll highlight, like, if a room is red, it means you haven't found or done everything in that room yet. And then eventually it'll actually populate the things that are in there. So if there's like a box of ammo or a thing of gunpowder or an herb, it'll actually show up on your map. It'll track what doors require what keys, or whether it's just plain locked, like you can't get into it, or if you need the spade key, or if you need a crank to open it up. It'll keep track of all of that, almost to a point where when I was playing it, the flow of the game was I would go into a room and I'd check it out real quick first, and then I would just hit the map button and it'd be like, oh, still red, so there's still something in here. And then I found myself going into the map more frequently than I wanted to because of how useful it was. Because I wanted to make sure that it was, I 100%ed. I got everything I could get out of it. I don't know. On one hand, I think it's an amazing way that they handled the map. I think it kind of in a way for a game like this a little bit revolutionary, but at the same time, I think that it enables that a little bit too much, that constant map flipping, going into it. Okay, 100%. All right, I'm done. 100%. Not 100%. Gotta still stay here. So it kind of left, like I wasn't like really poking around. I was relying on the map to tell me whether or not I was done or not. And I don't know. That was just something that I came across.
Now, I believe, because obviously it's a hardcore mode, which plays like, because there's an auto-save function. You could use typewriter to manual save, but you also get auto-saves.
Yeah.
There's a hard mode in there, which removes that and makes it play like the original version, where you have ribbons, and then you have limited ribbons, like the remake of 1 and the original one of 1.
Right.
I believe, if I remember rightly, that they actually take that map thing out. The maps and the map signaling thing as well. It just makes it like the original one. If it won't flag everything. It won't flag if there's something in that room. If I remember right.
Okay. Does it tell you if it's 100% complete or not?
Nope, I don't think so.
Okay, because the original Resident Evil did that. The remake of Resident Evil. I don't know if the original did, but the HD remake at least told you. It didn't tell you what was in that room, but at least told you if the room was 100%.
Oh, grey or clear. Yeah. I think it doesn't let you know that there's actual specific items in there.
Okay.
But yeah. Well, I know it doesn't do that, but I don't know about the color change. I must admit. But yeah, the actual signaling stuff is in there. Because you can tell that there's like bullets in the corner.
For me, it was definitely just the color. Like when I walked in, if it was red, then I knew that I needed to stay in there and keep searching around, and then it would eventually turn blue. And I just kept flipping back every time I picked something up. Check the map. Okay, I'm done. And it like I said, it just kind of stifled my own exploration, like my own analysis of the room, like poking around in every corner, investigating everything. For instance, there's a morgue that you go into, and of course the game makes you pull the bodies out of the freezer in order to check and make sure you've collected everything, right? And there's like, let's say, a dozen bodies in there, doors that you can pull open. So you go in there and the room's red, so you know that there's something in there. And I go over to one of the things and I pull it out, and there's an item there, so I pick it up, right? And then just haphazardly I go to another one and I pull it out, and there's something else there, and I grab it, and then that room is blue, and I know I don't have to open up any of the other things. Where if it wasn't that informative, I would have opened up every one of those, and I'm sure I would have found some zombies. I'm sure I would have found something interesting, but I didn't, because I knew that was done, and the anxiety around opening up one of those freezers and having a creature jump out at me was enough to make me say, okay, I'm done here, let's go. So it's just things like that, and like I said, constantly flipping back to the map. It's the same thing that I get with open world games where I'm trying to do collection quests and stuff like that, where I check the map every 2 seconds, because that's how that's what you need to do in order to get those things done. And I just found myself doing that, and this wasn't even like an open world collection game.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that they have there, much like the original one, which you obviously recently played. It stops the loop of kind of retracing the steps around the house. It stops it from becoming incredibly frustrating.
Oh yeah, no, there's
that
like
drag.
There's definitely a use to it, and I understand I just wonder
Ooh.
if there was maybe instead of every item,
Ooh.
maybe it colored it if there was like a progression
item.
critical item, yeah, like a key item in there.
Ooh.
Otherwise, it
Right.
didn't do it. Or like
Yeah.
maybe if you spend enough time in that room, it would populate it with the icons.
Ooh.
But it wouldn't say whether or not it was 100% or not 100% if it was just like a box of ammo or an herb or something like that. Only if it was just like
Yeah.
a key or a medallion or something along those lines. Just something
Ooh.
to make it be like I don't keep flipping back through my the map so much, because that was like probably the second half of that game for me was doing that once I figured out the flow of it.
Ooh.
And there wasn't really like anything like suggesting I shouldn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It
Right.
wasn't like there was literally no drawback to it, because the
Ooh.
map comes up so quick too. It isn't even like there's a
Yeah.
load or I need to go through a menu. It's like you press the button,
Ooh.
you're immediately to the map, and you press it again, you're immediately out of it. So it wasn't even like an issue in that respect.
Yeah. Yeah. So overall, kind of now, I'm probably a bit biased by it. So I'll say what I thought of it. Now, you haven't played many of them, but you've played probably the best of the series. You played one,
mhm.
or the remake of one. You played four. Where do you think? Because obviously they are very kind of significant games. Where do you think that? Do you think this stands up well against them?
I'm not ready to get into that right now. Before we do that, because I've got
Oh, sorry.
something. Um,
Mm.
what overall, what did you think of the story?
Um,
Just as a general overview, was it good? Was it bad? Was it on par?
well, like in the original ones, there's the I know what I'm getting. I'm going to get a little bit of cheese, a little bit of kind of high sci-fi type thing, high kind of camp drama type thing. I think it does a good thing of taking a lot of the camp out of it. I think they've still got some silly moments, big monsters with eyes on there, and kind of weird dialogue choices.
Yeah,
But I think it plays it admirably straight. A very silly
like
concept, quite straight.
like Claire and Leon talking through a fence. So, how are you doing?
If only she said, "Could you help me climb over this fence?"
Right.
Yeah,
Like
that's literally just above her head with no barbed wire.
I think my favorite part is when she leans up against the fence, like she's just trying to be like super casual. Like, so how are you doing? Like what's up? What are you doing here, huh? Fancy meeting you here, or something like that. Like they're trying to be flirty or whatever with each other, and it's just like, dude, there's fucking zombies everywhere.
For a while, then he meets Ada, and then it's like that distracted boyfriend of me.
Yeah.
He forgets all about her until the end of the game. It's like,
Right,
oh,
yeah.
you.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing where that kind of goes.
Yeah, so the story is quite, it's quite interesting. I think the atmosphere is in the extra context stuff, the notes you find, the kind of the extra storytelling. I think that is a lot better than it has been. I believe they've got more because the last 7 was written, because normally they're written by a Japanese and translated into this. I believe 7 was written by the guy that wrote Spec Ops: The Line. So it had a decent kind of not quite so stilted story, not quite so stilted dialogue. And this one, I believe, is also written by Americans, and then kind of, so it doesn't have that quite kind of slightly off kilter dialogue, or those slightly off kilter notes.
like bad translation.
Off.
Like there's no Jill sandwich.
Yeah. No, there is no Jill. You're right. Jesus. But yeah, so they take the stiltedness away, and it does. A fairly silly story does suit the atmosphere quite well, I think.
Yeah, I always felt
think,
like the overall story of Resident Evil was better than the individual moments that happen in it, like the interactions with the characters and stuff like that. Right. Just the overall, like the viruses and the conspiracies and the stuff like that was always the draw, and the moment to moment character interactions weren't that great. I think probably 4 and 5, I didn't play too much of 6, are probably the best in that respect. Like the dialogue and the characters talking and stuff like that. But yeah, going back and playing 1 especially, and seeing some of the choices they make around that here didn't really do it for me. But at the same time, I did enjoy the overall story, like, you know, like the like I said, the conspiracy and what's going on behind the curtain, and I think it was done a little bit too quickly and a little bit too forced, but the story of the Birkins was pretty good.
Also, how creepy is Chief Irons reading through the notes? Have you got to Chief Irons yet?
He's in Claire, right? Claire's playthrough.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have not.
Oh, good lord! Wait till you get some of that stuff.
Yeah, I've seen some cutscenes. Yeah.
It's surprisingly dark, and it's surprisingly like, this is supposed to be Resident Evil. Be cheesy.
Yeah. So that's an example of what we were talking about earlier, when of differences between the two playthroughs. Like, that's a character that doesn't even exist in Leon's playthrough.
Yeah, it's taken over by a different thing. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a very good set piece, actually.
So I'm gonna try and squeeze this in, because I know we want to get to God Eater and wrap it up. But so post completing Leon's campaign, and thinking back on it, as I usually do with games, like I before I like jump on something and I say this is the best game ever or something like that, I let it kind of stew and think about it. The more I thought about this game, the more I kind of had the issue that we were talking about earlier with Far Cry, where I started to see the systems and everything. Like, when you first start playing it, it seems like, oh man, these puzzles are awesome. I got to find and collect these things and put them in the right spot, or solve these little puzzles and stuff like that. And the more I see it as authored content, even in the situations where you're stocked up on ammo and you're like, oh man, I'm ready to fucking kill whatever comes my way. And then you go into a room and every zombie takes 10 headshots to go down. And or that is immediately when you find a licker and have to deal with him in some sort of way, whatever it may be. So then all of a sudden, this huge stockpile ammo you have is completely pointless. You end up wasting it. You end up spending it in some dumb way. And even with a little bit with the Mr. X, like I was saying, when you knew that like you needed to get to this particular place and you knew how to get there, you go this way, you go up the stairs, you go through this door, and you're there. And then Mr. X is going to be on the other side of that door. So then you have to figure it out a different way. And the more I thought about it, the more I felt that it was a little bit too on the nose with that kind of stuff, a little bit too obvious in the way that it was building its encounters and stuff like that. And then when I start doing that, it's kind of like the problem in general that I have with horror, is that once you break it down and analyze it and understand how it works, it stops being effective. And that's kind of where I ended up landing with this game. Like, it's almost too perfectly built, if that makes any sense. Like,
it's very video game.
It is. It's extremely video game, and it feels very crafted. Like they spent so much time making every like almost like they had this game done for like 2 years, and all they did was play test, right? So they knew they knew exactly where every single person was going to go, and planned it, planned it accordingly. Um,
Mm.
to the point where, so Derek, you were talking earlier about the liquor that suddenly showed up. Um, am I right in saying that that was where you had just blown up that C4?
Yep.
Yeah. So in that particular part,
Mm.
the door that you probably came in from has a filing cabinet pushed over it, and you can't get out that way. You can't run past it. You quit, but when you load back in, don't try to go through that door because you're not going to be able to do it, forcing you to go in a different way, right? And I don't think that that's bad, right? I don't think that that's bad game design. I think that there's absolutely 100% a way for that kind of stuff to go down. What I don't like, and it's not even that I don't like it, it's when the game is trying to fool you into thinking it isn't happening. And it's just not, it's not working. Like I'm seeing through it completely. Like that filing cabinet, I saw that actually happen when I wasn't supposed to see it. I guess the best the best explanation would be for that. I don't know if I was supposed to, or it just happened to be the way that I was looking at it. It's just things like that.
The canned nature.
Yeah, it almost feels like it because a lot of this feels like a Metroidvania in a sense, where you're unlocking new ways to traverse the police station, clearing out the map, and you're not getting abilities, but you're getting like tools in order to unlock doors and stuff like that. And then they're closing those doors, and they do it very frequently. They do it especially in the police station. The police station is obviously where they spent the most time with this game. Once you go down in the sewers, it's very linear, in my opinion. There's a puzzle there. There's a pretty good puzzle with the chess pieces that took me a while to find everything and make sure I had cleared out everything. But it is a lot more linear than the police station is. And down there, these kinds of things didn't quite rear their head as much as they did when I was in the police station, where there was this kind of more illusion to freedom. And then once you start to realize that, you're like, no, actually all this is planned, and they knew I was going to be going here and doing this. And and it was just like that was kind of like that, and I don't think the game ends on a strong note, just in general. Like, no, it kind of wraps up real quick. And I think the environment,
you won't get the ending until 2. That's kind of a truncated version of the ending you get at the end of 2. So you're not really getting the end of the game, which is not very satisfying if you don't know that.
Yeah,
I don't think. Yeah,
I just thought it was like, okay, all done, wrapped up.
Now there's an extension of that. That's all I'll say. There's an extension of that. It will still happen. It will still play out, but there's a big extension of that.
Okay.
But you don't know that. So that is it's one of those things where they're going to sound a bit hard, but it's probably, as AAA games go, it's probably one of the best fan service games ever made, but to its detriment. Kind of, it's so fan service that it takes the element of kind of freedom out of it. The set pieces, it sets you up those set pieces of kind of that area you knew you wanted to go down. You now can't because the helicopters crash through. Now you need to get the bees to push it over so you can get back through. All that canned stuff is great for fan service. But as you say, it takes away that kind of, you can see the seams. If you're not giddy for that, you can see the seams.
It's
definitely.
like that helicopter thing is. I don't have a problem with that. That's so obvious.
Yeah, no, it's just an example. Right. Yeah.
But it's when it's trying to trick you, into thinking
Yeah.
that this is some sort of dynamic thing that's going on, and it's clearly not.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like
That
if
makes
I,
you giddy if you're a fan, but if you're not, it's just like, well, I could see, like you say, you saw it fall. You can
yeah,
see the gimmick. You can
right,
see the wires.
right.
Yeah.
So I guess from the original, how, let's just focus on that scenario. Is
Mm.
that something that happened, that scenario in the prison, that jail, where you get the medallion? Is that something that happens in the original?
No, not the puzzle. That puzzle doesn't
Okay.
happen.
But does the
Um,
room happen the way that
yeah,
unfolds?
what with Ben? You go down there and see better the what's it? Who's he called? To some extent, yeah, there's dogs instead of zombies, but you do go there and you meet the reporter, who then gets
No, that's not what
done
I'm
and
talking
asked
about.
him.
I'm talking about
Oh, go on.
when you blow the C4
Yeah.
and to get into that little room where you get the medallion out of the.
Mhm.
This is way back at the police
Oh.
station.
Oh, right.
Um,
Okay. Sorry, I thought you said the jail cell. Sorry.
yeah, it's a jail.
Oh,
There is a jail cell there because
yeah. Okay.
some guy had locked people up, and maybe it's an evidence
I know the bit you
locker.
mean. Yeah.
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 Um, does that happen where the bookcase falls and the liquor shows up, and or is that completely new? Because I don't
No,
know.
but there are things. It's without getting boring. That whole thing of putting all of those coins into that uh that fountain
Yeah.
is kind of very simplified in the middle. It's just one you have to go and get to put in there. It's just
Okay.
one where you have to spread it out. So no, that's not in there, but that area is there. But there will be instances like that where you see something that will trap you, like that. You will like a ramification from that. You know, when you're walking around, for instance, when you see the door in the library on the top floor that you think you can go to,
Yeah.
and it cheats you and it makes you fall through the floor.
Yeah.
That kind of, and then it uses that canned loop of, well, now I can't ever go around there until I solve the bookcase puzzle.
Right.
That's there. That's all.
Okay.
That's there in the original. So that's another thing where it's like, well, now I see that set up for that's taking that kind of, you know what I mean? So that is there. The way you get around it is slightly different, but that set piece is there. So that's there for the fans. Oh, the
Okay.
thing where you fall through the floor. There's a different resolution to that.
Yeah.
Without wishing to get boring, the chess puzzle that you get in the sewers
Mm-hmm.
is actually in that room behind the bookcases in the original version.
Oh, okay.
It's actually all squashed out. There's a lot of things that are kind of extended.
Yeah. Yeah,
There's a
and
few
for
things that are
those
added.
specific things like the falling through the floor and
Mm.
stuff like that,
Mm.
that's an obvious thing that is a scripted event that's going to happen. And like I said
Yeah.
before, my issue is where it tries to um, create this illusion of creating these dynamic encounters, and it just doesn't. It starts to fall apart when I start thinking about it a lot and being like, oh, they had just given me all this ammo, so this really wasn't a dynamic encounter. This was either they put those things there on purpose to make me use up all my ammo, or they spiked the zombies, as it were, and they calculated how much ammo I had in my inventory, and then bumped up the or lowered the percentage on me getting like quick kills with the headshots and stuff like that. Because like I said, it would be like 4 zombies in a row where it would take like 4 or 5 shots to take them down, versus if I was low on ammo, I would get this feeling of like, oh, I lucked out because this one time I only used one handgun round and it just happened to blow his head apart.
Yeah.
And I obviously I can't prove that. I could if I really wanted to waste a whole bunch of time analyzing all the encounters and stuff like that. But it almost feels like that there's something going on in the background where it's calculating that kind of stuff, as opposed to it just being a random chance.
Maybe.
Like
I
I
don't know
said, I
about
don't know.
individual enemies like that. I'm not sure about individual enemies like that. It's
There
very
has
infrequent
to be
'cause-
something going on in the background deciding whether or not this particular zombie takes, 2 shots or 5 shots, right? There has to be
Mm.
some sort of calculation going on, whether it just be a percentage on like critical hit or something like that, or there's a little bit more uh,
Is there a super sweet spot maybe? Maybe that might be something you might find more when
Possibly.
you're playing on a PC. Maybe kind of a proper like right there, because you can shred even with a shotgun. If you don't get right at the top, you'll just shred their face and then their skin comes off. So if you're not getting that
Mhm.
critical head, so it's kind of there are variables within that. So
Yeah,
I wonder
it
if
could
there
be.
is.
It could be. I just don't know.
Yeah,
That's what it
yeah,
felt like to me. It always just felt like
mm,
I'd stock up with that ammo, and then I'd get into a room and I'd end up
mm,
spending it all.
yeah,
And then like the moments where I was low on ammo, it felt
mm,
like I was getting um more of those, you know,
mm.
uh
Particularly the
more of
sewers
that
that you
luck.
start to really run low. I think you really are running low on ammo by the time you get out of the station for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially in the garage area. I was really low on ammo in that area.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah. Oh god, yeah.
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 So that's where I am right there, and I'd be interested to see if somebody like does a deep dive into that,
Right.
with
I was just
everybody,
gonna say that might be something that would be interesting to
like
kind of go through and check.
a real big analysis on it to see if there's any sort of calculations going on in the back, or if it's just a matter of, you hit this particular spot and
Mm.
it does more damage, or whatever the case is, um, with
That'll be
everybody on
something.
YouTube out there.
Yeah, that'll be something if you want to watch some speed runs to see how they go through and see what exactly they're doing when they have to pick people off. So obviously, the
Yeah,
people can finish this in an hour because there is a very specific linear way and exactly the right one to shoot them in the leg. They break it down to an exact science of how to speed, but it's kind of built into the game. So if you watch those and then you watch a speed run and you see if they do take a headshot, whether it's a kind of a scripted thing or not,
yeah,
probably looking at a speed run will help you out with that one.
yeah. And they'd also be, if you're watching it on like Games Done Quick or something like that, they may have some narrative to go along with that, to be like,
Yeah.
Actually this is all RNG, and I don't know if I'm gonna hit this or not, or
Yeah.
whatever the case may be.
Yeah. Definitely worth having a look at some of those speed runs. They're quite good, especially for 4. They show you all the wrinkles about that, of which ones to clip, which ones are gonna. 4 does it, but then 4 is much more basic engine.
Yeah,
4 has ones where you know they're going to go, you know they're going to pop, you know which ones are going to have the parasites inside and which ones aren't going to have the parasites inside.
right.
So
Yeah, four. I always felt like that was, like, I've played through that game so many times that I know,
yeah,
like, I know where all the enemies are going to be, and I know which ones are going to be what, and I know
yeah,
the tricks it's playing
It's
and the
gonna-
tricks it's not playing.
yeah. But that's a much more less advanced or much less advanced sort of game. But yeah,
Yeah.